my name is Andrew Carson, Partner Development Manager here at Vendasta. We've been running these community sessions for the last few weeks, or last several weeks. And this is a place for partners to get together, a positive space to talk about challenges in the market, and with agencies and SMB, our clients, and how to overcome them. And so for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a mini series here, partner-led mini series with Simon from Social Ordeals, and he's been giving us the some details on how they do business. It's been fantastic, and I can't say thank you enough to Simon for having this conversation with the community and with other partners and engaging in this way. And so this is the third part of our three-part mini-series with Simon from Social Ordeals. The first one, we just had an open discussion about starting an agency, the trials and tribulations, and then last week we had a great conversation about sales team and snapshot report, prospecting presentations. A lot of great feedback there, and fantastic questions from everybody. So please, if you have any questions, please add them in the chat. Just type them in the chat there. We'll do our best to get to them. If we can't get to them during the session, we'll follow up in a different manner. But please keep those questions coming.
I think I also got back to everybody that emailed me. Unfortunately, again, like I mentioned last week, I cannot commit to time with you partners at this point. Andrew and I are working on a few things that I'll hopefully be able to do that. At this point, I couldn't commit any time, but I definitely answered all the emails that came to me. There was some, like Andrew said, some phenomenal questions and some great feedback. So that was great.
Yeah. And so today we're going to be going over, after the sale. There's everyone probably knows there's a lot that happens after the sale. So that's what we're going to be covering today, talking about the handoff, onboarding, retention strategies, upsell strategies, and all of that, and engagement in the platform, which can really help free up some time. And I'm not going to take away from what Simon's going to cover today, but I am really curious from the group here. So I do have 2 or 3 questions I want to ask the group and do that little video game. So if everyone could just turn off their video, and then I'm going to ask a question, and if your answer is yes to that question, please turn your video on. So if everyone can turn their video off. So the first question that I have for everyone is, do you have an onboarding strategy? Do you have an onboarding plan that is written out, that is provided for your team to assist with that handoff from salesperson to fulfillment team? So I see some videos starting to get turned on, which is great. Super happy to see that. Okay, not as much as I would expect, to be honest. All right, turn your videos off again. Turn your videos off again. And the next question that I have for everyone is, do you have a clear upsell path after you get a client on board? I can see Adam shaking his head saying yes. Whenever you get somebody signed on, do you have that clear upsell path so that you know what the next steps are, how you're going to improve performance? Even less videos or videos turned on than before. Well, I think this is going to be great. Maybe I expect to be covering some of those things today and coming up with some strategies. So everyone, you can pop your video back on. And like always, this session is being recorded, so we're going to share the recording in the community afterwards. Keep those questions coming in the chat. And without further ado, Simon, you want to take it away and tell us what we'll be talking about today?
Let's start. I know, like I mentioned last week, a lot of these topics, everyone, that we're breaking down, truly, we could spend a webinar on each of these. So the last few weeks, all those topics through sales and prospecting and whatnot could have each been a webinar topic, and I believe these can as well. Yeah. So I think in the future, Andrew, might think about that, and maybe we will bust these out and bring different partners on, and bring forth their experiences. Some of the questions I answered last week, truly, we got to remember, I only answer things in our experience as Social Ordeals. So there truly isn't a right or wrong, but I always explain things from like what we've learned, what we're doing, what we've done, what we've experienced. So, you know, some questions about, hey, Simon, why, I can't believe you don't think cold calling works, or hey, Simon, I can't believe you prospect that way. And it's kind of like, well, it's just, I'm giving you our experience. I would never say something doesn't work or I wouldn't do that. It's just, hey, this is what I've learned. I wouldn't do it. And this is the way my recommendation is. So we have to remember that. This is just my recommendation, my experience. We've been successful. But again, you might find your own niche way or find something, and that's fantastic. And I'm always willing to hear feedback on that. So let's fire away on onboarding. So after the sale, I know we talked about sales last week. I think a good handoff is always really important. I love, and again, your organizations might be different. You might be a 1 or 2 man team, and the salesperson's actually the person fulfilling, or the salesperson's handing it off to Vendasta, who's great at taking care of the client in terms of day 2 support. So I think the handoff always has to be, hey, welcome aboard. You're in great hands. I'm passing you off to, Susie or Shellen or Bob or whoever, and thanks for joining us, and thanks for being a part of our agency and being a client and stepping away. I've gotten to the point where I remove my salesperson from onboards. Like, it's hard to get some of my salespeople to just let the tie go. And they always seem to want to spend hours being involved, and they give out their cell numbers, and all of a sudden they're chit-chatting and conversing back and forth. It's like, the relationship after the sale needs to be built on that success end. It needs to be that farmer, that curating, that love, and that fulfillment. And we got to slap that hand to that salesperson a lot. That's from my experience. And nowadays I'm really trying to cut it off. So I need those people in the back end who are truly going to be giving the account love and building that engagement. And I want them to start that relationship with the client.
Hey, Simon, that's a good question. I'd like to get maybe a sense of the room from the partners here, just in the chat. If your salesperson is also doing, the fulfillment, the account management, just type sales into the chat. And then if you have that handoff to the account executive, maybe just type AE for account executive. So 1 AE, quite a few sales.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot of starting partners, Andrew.
One-person agency.
And Social Ordeals, just so you know, Social Ordeals, everyone, like Chris was doing everything at the beginning.
Yeah.
Working from home, sold his first 30 or 40 clients. He was trying to social post. He was trying to manage stuff. He was trying to bring in more and more revenue. And it got to the point where, hey, I need Vendasta's team in my backyard. And I got to keep growing the revenue, and it's not scalable for me to do all the fulfillment, love, and building the relationship. So that was the first step of the break off, where he had to let go. He had to let somebody curate, and then he can land more clients. So that was the first big point, I would say, in kind of a second phase.
Nice. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of one comments here, just one person agency, just getting started. And that's a great point, Simon. You can grow having our marketing services team, have that touch point and do the fulfilling, and you can continue selling. And as you grow, business can change, and you can add more people and restructure. So that's a great point. But thanks everyone for your feedback. I just wanted to get a sense from from who we have on the call here.
Yeah. So, in speaking to that a little more, since we have a lot of those partners with us, that's a hard thing, just because you've got a lot of communication and you want to keep driving more and more clients in, but your right hand over here is, I got to do all this work. My phone's ringing. I got to send out emails, or I gotta work on social posts, whatever that might be. I got to grind listings. And it's a lot of work. So you're gonna get to that point of, whatever that number is. It might be 30 accounts, it might be 40 accounts, and then it's kind of like, you hit that standstill. So it's like, I believe that's that phase 2, where all of a sudden it's like, okay, now's the time where I got to start getting a really good team behind me to take care of this, and I just keep growing the revenue. But for us, for some of those other agency partners where you do have teams, it's tough letting that sale go, because we only want the salesperson to do sales. We'll bring them back into that next. We'll speak about it later in terms of upselling, but we want the relationship to grow with that person that's going to be managing that account.
Yeah.
Any questions? I think it's a great little stop to ask for any questions.
Yeah, I see some good thank yous. I don't see any specific questions right now. Does anybody have any specific questions for onboarding? Or I think we should. I mean, we have a few things to go through. Let's continue, Simon.
Yeah. So let's speak to an onboard. So after that handoff, making the client feel comfortable, they're good in hands. The onboarding is super important for a few factors. We got to set the right expectations. And I've seen a lot of agencies or a lot of sales guys who have oversold things. And then the poor people that are fulfilling are just underperforming because the client's been oversold. And then I've also seen people fulfilling that just have not set the correct expectations. So that onboard is really crucial, but you also have to sometimes step back and look over at your sales guys, because sometimes they'll just say things they shouldn't say, or they'll offer things they shouldn't offer, or whatever that might be. But onboarding, you just got to build that checklist. Like, to me, it's like we still have our checklist that we got to run through. I love when I see my client success managers have that thing right up, in their on their wall of their office or wherever, and it's like, keep hitting all those points, because we keep adding items to that. Vendasta keeps adding stuff into reputation management, into customer voice, into social marketing. Well, we want to make sure that we're adding that little feature in there. So, hey, dear client, what are the 3 most common questions that people ask you when they first call you? And it's like, well, they ask me if I sell this, or if I do this service or whatnot. Well, let's pop those right into your Google questions and answer them. All those items should be hit on. And that's definitely a new item that populated into Vendasta's platform, which is awesome. I know it's turned off. I think now it's starting to get turned on, I think, as of the last few weeks. But the Google Q&A was turned off. But a great thing to add into your onboarding. So again, that checklist needs to be refined. It would never be the same over a year span, just because Vendasta's adding new stuff. So we want to showcase and show it off and teach the client how to do it, or if we're doing it, set the expectation of what we're going to do. So consistency, and that's the other point of that checklist.
And that's a good point. I like something that you said there. As features get added, on your side, you're adding it to services that you can offer. The Q&A, it's ask the questions that people are asking so that we can also answer them. And for the agencies who are getting started out, another thing that you said, Simon, is consistency. Our marketing services team has done this for years, and we do this across such a wide range of verticals. It's incredible. And so, by increasing to a subscription level that you can offer marketing services. You know, it's really only, you know, from basic or, you know, the plans now, it's really only an increase of $750 a month to have access to an entire team who has that consistency, and you can understand and connect with them to understand what the workflow will be. And then you can also add in your services on top of that with new features. Just like Simon said, Q&A comes out, boom, you know, you can do that. So, you know,
And
do it
also
with me.
between all your solutions, I also feel I see some agencies that you know, treat more of a DIY client. So if, you know, if we sell, you know, a 10 location bank and or credit union or whatnot, we want to make sure we're spending the same amount of time on that initial meeting and that initial onboard to teach that marketing person. If we can get them, and we'll speak to this later in terms of engaging in there and using all of the items in our reputation management or our social marketing or whatever service they're firing into, they're not going to let go. So it doesn't matter if we're doing the work. And a lot of agencies sometimes think, well, you know what, we're doing it. We're just going to go get all the information to populate into the business profile, and then we're good because we're doing all the work. It's kind of like, no, you need to have that walkthrough. You need to set those expectations, not only get that information, but, you know, if you are social posting, there's lots of questions you need to ask in terms of if you're social posting for the client, or, you know, teaching the person how to utilize the social marketing inside Vendasta, or if you're responding to reviews and doing review solicitation, you know, even if they're doing it, you want to walk through, help them build, like our team will help our clients build that customer voice and their template, regardless if they're DIY or if we're going to be reaching out every month and be like, hey, Simon, over at Simon's Hardware, I need your list of your last 30 days of clients so I can pump it through or whatnot. So even if they're not doing it and we're doing it, we want to do that walkthrough, and we want to be consistent and making sure it's successful.
That's awesome. And so, you know, what would be a general onboarding like? Do you get right into Business Center? You know, are you getting things connected, or do you have some forums? You know, like you said, social marketing, you have a lot to cover, but like what in general, what might it look like?
So when the sale happens, we have an invoicing link. The great thing is Vendasta's built this right into their system now, so they can do payment and invoicing and whatnot. We also send out an onboard link. So we have a form, and it just makes our success team's life a lot easier when that salesperson gets that form filled out and of course gets the invoice filled out. So we know they're paid, and then that form punches through, and then we have that form will ask a lot of the vital business profile questions. So that way we could build the account prior to that onboard date. We also ask like, hey, when's the best day and time that you know, we can have a meeting with you and onboard you and whatnot, right in that form too. So that form will shoot over, well, actually comes over to me, who I then appoint a success manager to it. And they could start building out that account because we've got some of that information, so that when we get onto the client, we're not like, hey, so what's your formal business name? You know, you're asking all these questions. It's like you're wasting that first maybe 30 minutes out of a 60-minute meeting where you could have got that information very easily, and they could have done it on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning on their weekend, and we're not wasting much of time. We've still got the onboard time to be within about 60 minutes. It's tough with Vendasta adding more elements and more stuff inside the platform. We're finding it tough to keep to a 60-minute onboard. So that's really crucial that you get that information through like a little Google form. We actually have a form linked right to our website. So it just makes it easier for the sales guys. When we get a verbal yes, I'm ready to start, we send out an invoice, and we send out the link to that new client onboard. Any questions? Sorry, Andrew, you're on mute.
Classic, isn't it?
Rookie move. Rookie move.
Yeah, yeah. I told everyone, yeah, we've been doing this for a while. This is my first session, please. Yeah. Hey, let's keep it flowing, and I would love to spend, like 20 minutes talking about engagement and upselling. But what about let's move on. That third point there, curating and fulfilling.
Yeah.
Um,
So after obviously we get that onboard done, we've set the expectations. We obviously got to manage the account, which is crucial and extremely important. There's more work than you think. Like that's what I've found. There's a lot of the items in here, and a lot of the work is not just flip a switch and let's walk away from this. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of monitoring that needs to be done. Also set yourself up to get all the notifications. I find like I was a mistake when I came to Social Ordeals, and I was watching people manage accounts, and I was like, well, are you sending yourself like the notifications? Are you, so keep involved in those accounts. They got to be loved. It's not easy. Fulfillment is just not easy, and we're not even speaking to managing like digital advertising or anything like that. We're just speaking to responding to reviews, and it's been tough the last 2 or 3 months with COVID. I mean, not knowing when the floodgates are going to open and whatnot, not notifications not being able to go out. So, some reviews would populate into reputation management, and it's not Vendasta's fault, because they've got a trigger that, hey, if the review's so old, like we don't want to send out notifications, which makes sense. But then of course we don't know what tasks need to be fulfilled. So there's a lot more work the last 2 or 3 months in curating and fulfilling, but it's not an easy job. Our main fulfillment services, that we do in-house, but of course Vendasta does with their team too, is claim listings. I'd say our top 3 would be claiming listings, responding to reviews, and reaching out once a month to solicit reviews or get a list from the client. And then the third one is just a couple social posts a week. We stay away, again, we're not a creative or a branding type of company. Try and stay away from content. So we love finding those really good articles to post, because we find that these clients are already doing some great content of taking pictures right within their office or whatnot and posting more localized stuff. Whereas we want to give them more of the SEO type of stuff. We want to go in there and hashtag some great posts, make sure we're punching it out to Google My Business and to all their social media platforms. But those are our main fulfillment: social posting, review response, review solicitation, claiming listings, and monitoring listings.
Nice. So we have quite a few questions coming in on this topic, Simon. It's good. It's great. How are you managing all of this? Are you using Vendasta Task Manager?
Yes. I have to admit, and on the sales side, we have not fully committed Sales and Success Center. Obviously, we use a snapshot report. We're starting. I'm starting to push my gents and ladies on the sales side to hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days fully work out of that Sales and Success Center, now that there's a calendar, now there's some really good task features, etc. So we use another little CRM on that side. On the fulfillment side, it's Task Manager and Google Calendar. In terms of like setting the appointments and whatnot, it's Google Calendar, but Task Manager through Vendasta.
Nice. Yeah, we've made some improvements to reporting, especially those manager features where you can see the tasks that are being completed and everything. So
that's huge too, and that brings up a great point. Sorry to interrupt you, Andrew, but there's a lot of digital agencies that I would even go visit, and I'd be like, so how do you know who's a better digital agent, or somebody in your digital agency? Like how do you know if somebody's better than one, or who's doing great work, or how do you know? and you don't. And now with Vendasta's new like manager feature in Task Manager, I can tell who my rock stars are. And it, once we flipped that on, I was like, oh my God, I've got Shelby over here knocking off like 50 to 70 reviews on average per day. She's doing this many social posts. And I've got somebody over here where I need a story as to why they're only doing about 70% of the work, Shelby, is because maybe they've got some tougher clients, or the social posting's a little bit more tougher or whatnot. But at least you can analyze that from that new Task Manager feature, Andrew. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's perfect. I'm happy to hear that it's helping you manage your teams, and that's why it's there. I know Swapno will be happy to hear that. Cool. So maybe let's keep it rolling.
Let's answer a couple of questions. Are there a few questions there that I could quickly answer, Andrew?
Well, the questions that we got a few questions on if you're using Task Manager.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, let's if anybody wants to even unmute themselves, if one person wants to unmute themselves and maybe ask a question about fulfillment or onboarding that we've talked about so far. I do want to have a good chunk of time for engagement and upselling, but anybody have a question or feedback here? Comment for the group? Adam, I can see you raising your hand. Adam McNeil, we'd love to hear from you.
Cool. So we just had this conversation in-house, and overall, and I was asked personally by a member of the group as well through a private chat, and this is the answer that I gave, is that we're really finding that it's an overall effort to not want to duplicate our workflows anywhere, right? And so when we found that we could, when we started to explore Task Manager and getting used to that, we realized that that's exactly what we were doing. So we're actually, I mean, all I can speak for is what works for us, but we're moving away from those other solutions and keeping everything nice and holistic and tight and in one place.
Yeah. And that's totally, Adam, great point. That's what we've found too. When I first came to Social Ordeals, we weren't fully tightened into Task Manager. And I think also with the new features over the last year, I mean, Task Manager has really stepped up too. Mm-hmm. So it was just a no-brainer. And I love all the other things that are coming into it in terms of even from the manager side of things. Like for me, that's crucial, because it's like, I don't have time to go in and, impersonate an agent, see kind of, what they got outstanding, and having to drill down, whereas I can just click that top screen and just be like, oh wow, okay, there's a bunch of tasks outstanding, click on that, I could see who they're assigned to, why, if somebody's maybe falling behind. So you're right, holistic, bringing everything into one spot, yeah, starting to work well.
So maybe this is a question for Simon and Adam, feel free to comment on this as well, but I see a question here from Zach. Excuse me. Do you have a template in Task Manager? Like if someone gets a service, onboarding, and checking up on them, tasks are automatically created. So I know that there is, you can create projects and you can have that automated, but love to hear from, Adam and Simon. How do you guys do it? Are you using templates in Task Manager?
Go ahead, Adam.
First question.
So to an extent, yeah, to an extent, we sort of separate process from strategy at the beginning of onboarding. So there are a couple of things that always need to be done, because that's part of how we've designed our pipeline, right? But beyond that, I find that needs to stop. I don't believe, I mean, it's great to, just get the basics of everything set up, the same things that have to happen for every client as required by your pipeline and whoever has to be a part of that. But once it starts to get into, any kind of strategic discussion, I personally don't believe in templates for that. It's got to be a tailored strategy and solution for that client. So I think templates are great, but I think that they can only help you to a certain extent, and then you need to provide value and expertise as a human being, and give that client the tailored treatment and strategic attention that they deserve.
Yep. I don't think I need to add to that at all. I completely agree. I also think, I I mean, on the basic level, yeah, we're gonna obviously have some, you know, turn on the basic features so we know, you know, the reviews are curating to the right digital agent. You know, if there are some specific projects, if we're building them a website and whatnot, but yeah, it's tailored to the client. But so it's about now. It's also about engaging that success agent to make sure those projects, you know, are getting set up and tailored to the client for their own benefit. So
Nice.
absolutely right.
I just wanted to address Ariel's comment here. You know, what are you managing, or where are you managing your sales team pipeline? So I provided a little bit of feedback that, you know, we've recently been improving the pipeline management for salespeople in Sales and Success Center. But, you know, great question. You know, Ariel, I'll walk through it with you sometime. But Simon, how do you do that?
We're using a little another little CRM called Pipe Drive at the moment, and the salespeople were using it here when I first got here 3 years ago. So I let that ride. You know, there's just some features, you know, that Vendasta never had in the Sales and Success Center in terms of tasks and scheduling and whatnot. And now we're at the point where I think at least 90% of those items that they need and love have been built. So I've even now have one person as of this week, this is how fresh it is, that I have solely working out of the Sales and Success Center. So that way we can make sure that they can handle it, they love it and whatnot. But I'm gonna be moving my team over. I don't want an external thing like Pipe Drive. I'd rather have the Sales and Success Center. I don't want another thing to log into, because I always have to log into Pipe Drive and see if that account was created in Pipe Drive. And then the salesperson has all their tasks underneath there. And when's the next call, or what was their last call about? I can have that right in Sales and Success Center, and have all the information there, as well as the email tracking thing through Chrome and whatnot is awesome too. So
Sweet. Awesome. And hey, great comments, great questions, everybody. So keep them going. Simon, what do you think about moving on to the engagement piece?
Yeah, so I truly think that item we just spoke to, curating and fulfilling, really sets up this topic of engagement. We really got to get the client, you know, we got to make sure, and that onboarding is so important, because we want to turn on all the correct notifications and make sure they got to log into the platform, so they get these things. And when we get them, when we get these notifications firing out, they love the platform, and then they're going to engage. Also, with the new items that have gone into Vendasta, Google Analytics was a huge one for us. We just, you know, we found that the client or our success person has to go outside of the platform again, look at the analytics and be like, hey, wow, have you seen that, you know, website traffic? You know, if we've done some SEO services for them or whatever that might be, it's like now tied back in. So it's great. I can't wait to see that one step further, where Google Analytics is in the marketing funnel at the top there, and inside Listing Builder, just like Google Insights. So the client knows, like, hey, if I want to look at my GMB insights, I want to look at my website or Google Analytics, you know, I want to look at my reviews, or I want to manage my social, or see what Social Ordeals or, you know, whoever the digital partner is has set up and scheduled for the next month, or if they know. And our success agents, I've taught them to, like, get the client to log in, because sometimes the client will be like, hey, can you send me that report? It's like, no, here, send them their logins again, get them engaged. And we're at the point now, Andrew looked up that number and he was just like, what? We're at the point of 91%, was it?
91%. 91%
engagement per month. So we know that 91% of all of our users are engaging in the platform each month. So
across how many accounts? Hundreds of accounts.
Yeah.
So
it's really on that success person to keep pushing that. And sometimes, you know, the client gets a little annoyed, but you know, when we start getting them in there, they love it. They might see something else and they'll be like, oh, wow, cool, sweet. I haven't been using that. Or, you know, how do I get more of that? Or maybe I can get my digital partner, you know, and they'll see stuff in there. So engagement is all about that previous topic of curating and fulfilling, and that success agent has got to make sure that client is being engaged. If they're dead, there's no communication for 90 days, there's a flag that goes up in our system. And then that's where I might need that salesperson back. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Chris, sometimes whatever. We need to get that person re-engaged. So not only is logging into the platform, if we lose somebody and they go dark, we want to make sure like, hey, what's going on? Have you seen, you know, the great performances we've done on your listing score and on your citations and all the great stuff? Have you seen your insights lately? We're starting to spark up a lot of search and whatnot. Like, we want to give them those positive things so they go in there. But when they're dark, we also want to make sure we got to know what's going on there.
That's a good point.
Never sell something and walk away from it. You know, and sometimes success, people think like, oh, this person's busy, they're low touch, and they haven't had any communication with the client for 6 months, and it's just not okay. You know, give them something positive, throw something out there. And my team, like, I'll force them. I'm like, pick something great that looks really good inside that platform, some proof of performance in there, and just shoot them over an email. Be like, hey, Dave, know you're super busy. I was just going through your account and saw this. This is fantastic. I'm going to be showing this off to some of my other clients. Hope you're doing well. And even that, you know, if I get emails like that from people taking care of me, and Vendasta does that to me, like, hey, Simon, phenomenal, saw 91% engaged. That makes me feel good. It's like, wow, cool. I've got a great technology partner, or I've got a great digital partner behind me.
I love that. Adam McNeil, you have some great comments in the chat here. Maybe we can give Simon a little speaking break. I'd love for you to expand on your thought here.
Okay, which specific part about?
Well, you're saying, you know, because they tend to know their business, right? They
Well,
start
yeah.
to table important strategic questions that can be easily overlooked or remain completely unknown by the agency. Data-driven quick wins too. My clients love those.
Yeah. So when I find when you can get, I've had a lot of clients who, they had Google Analytics running on their website when they began their engagement with me or with the agency I work for, and but they'd never looked at it, right? They'd never looked at it. They left that up to the agency, and I mean, I think that part of the relationship is always going to be there. The agency is going to be required to pull meaningful insights out of the data for the client, but at the end of the day, like, we're always outsiders, right? And so if you can get them involved and you can get them to appreciate what a powerful tool that is, I think Google Analytics, like, because it's free, right? I think it gets devalued, and people think it's like they don't understand like what a powerful tool it can be for their business. So with that education piece, though, if you can get them to understand that, they will start to extract their own meanings from the data, and they will be able to bring to the table important considerations that as outsiders we might be blind to, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're totally right. And Google Analytics is a part of our onboard. And Adam, we went back as soon as Vendasta brought that into the system. I was so ecstatic that I literally created a spreadsheet and put a column in there and put GA at the top. And I'm like, I want to know which of our clients have a Google Analytics code on their website, which ones don't. And if they do have it, do we have access? If we don't, get access. If they don't have a Google Analytics at all, let's build it for them. Do we have website access? Let's punch it in there. I think it's crucial. So a lot of our clients, yeah, they didn't even build it, or they had their website redone, and that web development company never slammed it in there again, whatever the story might be. But I think that's a I think it's a huge
I
asset
think,
to have inside our platform.
if I may again, I think it's also important to make the distinction between, using Google Analytics and really using Google Analytics. Like if you just do sort of the baseline install of Google Analytics, your insights are going to be more limited. If you're running click ad campaigns, that should be integrated. You should also make sure that your clients, you've gone through them and you've properly set up the tagging with their goals, so that Google Analytics is really working to target their specific online business objectives, whatever those may be.
Yeah, I usually leave that stress onto my digital advertising team, but you're absolutely right. Like if you are doing advertising, yeah, you got to make sure that because that's your proof of performance. That's your, yeah, those are your claws. Yeah. So
thanks for that, Adam. Really appreciate you bringing that up. Simon, before we move on to upselling, one question that I do have for you is, there are a lot of automated notifications that you can turn on in the platform, isn't there?
Yeah.
What are some notifications that you might be automating? You referred to, whenever they get these notifications, they love it, and it creates an opportunity for us to chat with them and to reach out, and they actually reach out to us. Would you be able to speak a little bit more to what those notifications are?
Again, I don't feel that turning every single thing on is the right way to go. I feel that we've got a huge set, and we got a standard set that we turn on. We tell the client, hey, listen, you're going to get notified on this, social posting, if somebody's engaged with the post, if you got a review that's come in, if when we responded to a review, you're going to get a daily digest, some like basic. There's some things where sometimes it's a little too much. I can't remember some of those items off the top of my head. But you know what, if they do want that, we'll give it to them. But we also don't want them getting 30, 40 emails. Like sometimes when we turn on those leads in social marketing, and these people are getting flooded with like 300 emails or something, we want to tailor it back, so we want it to be feasible.
Nice. So yeah, there's many ways to I guess come up with your own list of notifications, right? And so you can probably find a lot of that info at our support page. I encourage everyone to do some searches there to find info. That's support.vendasta.com, and reach out to your Vendasta rep, and we can help you find out where those live and what those look like. But like Simon says, there's so many ways that you can go about it.
But you should be turning those on if you're managing
Yeah.
that account or whoever, you know what I mean? When I have a new client success manager and we're training them and whatnot, I want them to fire on every single notification just so they understand the notifications too. Even for yourselves, turn it on sometimes and be like, oh geez, this is just overwhelming, or wow, this is awesome, this is perfect, or so you got to know the platform, and you got to know the notifications before you're trying to explain them and turn them on for the client.
Nice. And the last point here, upselling.
Yeah, so I feel, again, from our experience, we do have people who come out of the gate where they come on board with us, where they might be buying SEO network services, or they might be buying digital advertising, or might be buying the whole full swing. But I would say most of the time, we want to take care of that foundational stuff before we get them into that, making them, showing them off to the world, so to speak. So we want to get them a better star rating. We want to get their listings all curated. We want to do all this stuff, and then we want them to spend more money because it's going to be more successful. But we do have clients coming out of the gate that do have everything fired up. But most of the time we're going back. I would say our upsell, again, our success people try and gauge that, but usually I love to say, at about that 3 to 4 month mark, people are really happy with what we've been doing. And it's kind of like, hey, Do you still have that budget? Do you have any advertising budget? We got you looking great. And we'd love to get you on with one of our digital advertising folks, or get Simon, the sales guy, back on with us, and get you into an SEO product and or some digital advertising. We feel that once we get them on to digital advertising and SEO services, it's the nail on the coffin. Like I mentioned before, with everything we have in our backyard, there are not many agencies that can be a full perform full services. So they might be getting calls over and over again from Yellow Page people and Yelp, and we all know that. But it's like, hey, dear Yelp, do you do this? Do you manage reviews? Do you do on all the avenues? Do you take care of listings? Do you social? Do you do this? And they'll be like, no. So the nail in the coffin is once you get them in, and I call it closing off that circle. You're their trusted advisor at that point, and it's hard for them to replace you, because you can do everything from host their WordPress site on the Google Cloud with Vendasta. You can do their SEO, you can do their digital advertising, you can do their review response, you can do everything for them. So
nice. And I just wanted to question for the group. I'm gonna share my screen here for a second. Just want to ask for the group here, how many people have seen this churn study before? How many people recognize this? Just pop in yes or no in the chat there. Can you see my screen, Simon?
I can, yep.
How many, if you've seen this churn study, just pop in yes. If you haven't, pop in no. So this is a churn study that Vendasta ran, for 200,000 plus SMBs. And, it reiterates a lot of these things that, Simon and Social Ordeals are doing, including your retention rate by product. You let me zoom in on this, by product, upsell around three month mark. So just like Simon said, at that 3 month mark, upsell happens and your retention is much greater. And then also speaking of packaging, a much higher retention with 4+ products than just, 1 product, 2 product, and even 3 product. So we'll be sure to send this out to everybody, and include a place where you can find this. But I want to make sure everyone knew that this is available, and we're also seeing this in the data that we looked at and surfaced I think a couple of years ago now. But we'll make sure to make this available.
Awesome. So I think speaking to that a little further, sometimes our clients, after we sold them on some core foundational stuff, they do have another agency maybe that's been managing their digital advertising for years or whatnot. We still want to get to the point where we can tell them, hey, just so you know, we've got a great SEO service and we've got a phenomenal digital advertising team, because you just want to plant that seed at the very least, so they know, if they ever have issues, they're going to fall back on you. And we have so many clients. They'll be like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of a little fed up. This reporting's terrible. Communication's bad with this long-term partner of ours. So, we want to test you out. And, we're pretty straight up. Be like, hey, what's your budget? Hey, do you mind sharing a report? Hey, and they'll all sometimes just shoot everything over. They'll be like, hey, this is what they're charging us to manage these ad campaigns. Here's a report. They'll give us all of that stuff. So it's a phenomenal when I could take that, give it to my digital advertising guy and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll be like, hey, we'll kick ass just for the fact that they're charging a lot for management fee. They're charging a 50 or 60% management fee, or, they're running stuff on keywords that's absolutely obnoxious, or, whatever that might be. We quickly analyze that, but it's pretty amazing how many people will just come back to us and throw that information all over to us. Nice. So it's really important that you got to let them know that you can do that stuff, and not be over pushy. Just so they know that, because they'll it's amazing how many times they'll come back to you.
Yeah, and let them know early. You know, plant that, like you said, plant that seed. Let them know, and when the time comes, you know, all stakeholders are aware of it, and you can have that conversation. So we got I missed this great question by Zach. Thanks, Lloyd, for bringing it up again. But Zach asked, how many accounts does one account success manager manage?
Ooh, great question. Great question. Again, there's not a set number because it really depends on the services that are on account, but I'm going to give you an average. I found that average is, gosh, 45 to 55-ish. You know, truly that's, you know, looking over their listings at least once a month. It's, curating listings, it's responding to reviews, it's reaching out to get reviews, and then maybe doing a few posts a week. I would say it's in that 40 to 60-ish range for sure. You know, again, it really depends on the services that, and if they're high touch, like some, you know, some clients are high touch and we're doing a lot more, or they, you know, if they're a brand or a multi-location, that there needs to be more love in there and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's my answer. Probably 40 to 60.
Nice. Good question here from Rob Palmer. Do you also have project managers, or do they handle all post-sales aspects? So I think, Rob, feel free to unmute yourself, but are you you know, referencing like account managers, account executives?
Yeah, like my question is, do you have anybody else involved after they become a client, or is it just basically the success manager that looks after everything and they handle all of the project management and scheduling?
Yeah, it's truly that person that onboards them. I want to build that relationship with that one person. Again, sometimes on that upsell, if it gets pretty detailed, I mean, the client success manager will probably want to bring in a member of my digital advertising team if we're talking about like a heavy AdWords deal, or might bring in my sales guy if they're a pretty fresh success agent to help a little bit upselling on an SEO product or whatnot. But to answer your question, it's one person, and I feel sometimes when we get a few people in there, it's just confusing. Whereas our clients love having that email direct to, you know, Shelby or to Katrina or to, you know, Gabriel or to whoever, and they've got that direct line, direct phone number, and email. So it's just, I want that relationship built with that one person.
Nice. There's a interesting question here from Sally. She says, Simon, what are your thoughts on the new algorithm changes for Facebook and Instagram, where there's only a 2% organic reach now? Are you still providing organic posts or using this to upsell to paid ads or Facebook, Instagram?
I just feel every time there's a huge shift or a huge change in the algorithm that a lot of agencies have a tendency to just jump so fast and try and switch things up. We don't. I still, again, we're not very content driven. We're very all about articles and hashtagging and building up that local SEO. We haven't lost a lot of traction. We did lose some, but I feel, again, with any other algorithm change, that things just kind of smoothen out. And I know certain industries were hit more than others. I saw some of the lists of who got hit harder than others, and yeah, that's a tough question to answer. But we keep going, and you know, a lot of people contacting me going, hey, you know, we just feel like we got to get a bunch of content. We got to, you know, and yeah, we just keep doing what we do. And I feel that it all kind of levels out.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, you know, if you're, you know, the foundation, even since that 0 moment of truth report from Google, you know, whenever that came out several years ago, the foundation really hasn't changed much. So if you have that foundation, thinking about consumer behavior and how they're going to be interacting and what they're going to do next,
Well, I also saw for the first time ever a great a thing happen where we actually saw the proof in posting the Google My Business. So we post our articles across, and with Vendassa's platform, I don't know of another platform that posts the Google My Business. So when I show that off to marketing people, they absolutely love it. They're like, wow, our Hootsuite program or our whatever program doesn't do that. We saw posts last week, we saw our rankings shoot up, and it was a doctor, I believe, and they had that cool little blue exclamation, and I think I showed it off to Andrew, where they, because of our hashtag to our Google My Business post on an article that we posted, it really launched them up that local ladder, and they went right to the top, and it had that cool little blue asterisk going, hey, this doctor is relevant to that surgery, because here's a post on it. So I still believe all that stuff and all that foundational stuff that we're doing is super crucial. And I think that GMB, putting the products and services into that Google My Business and tying it back to the website page that is relevant to that products and service is so huge. I mean, we haven't seen numbers behind the importance of that, but I think posting and those products and services are huge.
Nice. Well, you know what? We're right at the end of the meeting here, and I think this has been a great session. What does everyone else think? Let's give it up for Simon. Thank you very much. I've seen a couple thumbs up. Simon, really appreciate you, spending the time with the community here, and sharing your stories, sharing your insights about how you guys do business, with the Vendassa platform, and even, how you've grown from, working with Vendassa's marketing services team and when it made sense to, start looking at building your own team. So, Simon and I were going to be working together on great ways to connect with them. Simon, you can reach Simon at his email, but thanks everyone for your questions, comments. We'll follow up in the community after this, and I hope everyone, has a safe, and everyone keeps healthy this Friday and this weekend, and we'll catch everyone next week.
Wish everybody luck on their digital endeavors, and it was super nice to have some great conversations, everyone, and take care and stay safe.
Thanks everyone.
Well, guys.
We'll see ya.